the mind becomes extremely helpful to us. At that time, the mind becomes our friend. And speaking of friends, maybe you invited a friend today and you have someone here you'd like to introduce? Or if you're here for the first time and you just happen to have walked in and you'd like to say, hey, then please feel free. Go ahead, JM.
Yeah, please go ahead, Vicky.
This is Sebastian's second time here, but I just wanted to note that he actually met you at the prune yard in Campbell. And he said, we're giving these books to the nicest people we meet, and you just happen to be one of the nicest. And Flocka went back to make sure that he would be invited to our online meetings. And yeah, so Sebastian, I'm introducing you for a second time. Okay.
I couldn't quite hear who you said it was.
It's Sebastian.
Oh, that's Sebastian. How could I ever forget Sebastian? Nice to see you again. Thanks for being here. And I do remember meeting at the prune yard. Fantastic.
Hello, I'm Virginia. I was introduced by Nama from the Bhakti Corner in Melbourne.
Oh, great. You're tuning in from Australia.
Yes.
Fantastic. So nice to have you here, Virginia. Thank you for joining. And that's what you were going to say, right, Anama Chintamani?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I was just going to welcome Virginia and welcoming Mesta for the second time. She's listening in, and she's also from Melbourne.
Well, I'm liking this Australia connection again. Fantastic. Thank you very much for making that happen. Anyone else who would like to introduce somebody or say hey? Then, JM, I'd like to start with a little mantra meditation with the Nitai Gauranga. As, although we'll go through some of the philosophical points of the Bhagavad Gita regarding the mind, one of the statements of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is that spiritual practice should be directly felt. Philosophy with no access point becomes useless. And one of the ways in which Bhakti Yoga is directly accessible, or one of the practices of Bhakti Yoga, makes the realization of the difference between us and our minds, and also purifies the mind at the same time, is through mantra meditation. And so one of the mantras that is extremely helpful in opening the heart to gratitude and cleansing the mind is a 5-syllable mantra. I'll say it, and if you like, you can repeat it. Nitai Gauranga. And I'm going to put on a drone, and I'll repeat the mantra 5 times. And if you'd like, you can follow behind muted mics at the same pace of chanting Nitai Gauranga. Just take a moment to feel comfortable where you're sitting, and maybe sit up a little straighter than you were a second ago, and bring your attention to your breath. If you'd like, you can close your eyes, or you can watch the mantra on the screen. And just regulate your breathing for a moment and appreciate that you can breathe. Feel gratitude for your life. We see the 2 avatars, Nitai and Gauranga. And I'll start in just a few seconds, and if you like, you can follow along. Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga. And just notice now how the vibration penetrates the cells of your body. The mantra can bring us right to the present. And the mantra Nitai Gauranga opens the heart. We'll come back into the Zoom room. And my Zoom is asking me to confirm my speaking language. What should I tell it? Okay. To the matter at hand. And going to our slide deck, we pose the question, is your mind pushing you around? And push back. And that brings me to the first slide, which is on number 3. Denise, would you like to say something?
Oh, I just really like the Nitai Gauranga. There's a yogini in Hawaii who does obviously yoga. She used to be on PBS, and I bought her tapes and everything, and she chants to Nitai Gauranga. And so I used to always do that in the evening before going to sleep. I like that you told me that it opens the heart, because I think that's so important right now, that we should open up our heart and help those in need. And I wondered if you could just speak a couple minutes on opening up the heart. Does that mean like open up the heart to dearness, to love, or open up the chakra? So could you explain that further?
All of the above.
Hmm.
Well, we often talk about the heart as the center of emotion, and it's not too far from the truth. In fact, modern research shows that the heart has neurons. The brain has neurons, the heart has neurons. It means there's definitely a sense of feeling there within the heart. It's also true within the gut too. So when we find in the vernacular that I had a gut reaction or I felt it in my heart, physiologically we actually do. And there's a way in which the heart can become cluttered. When we say heart, it's actually metaphorical in a sense, because oftentimes we see a heart and we see a picture like a Valentine and so forth. Heart is a physical instrument, but as you alluded, there's a way in which beyond just the gross physical body, we also have a subtle body, a body that's made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And that body is what's actually the foundation for the physical body, and the foundation for the subtle body is the consciousness, which is beyond both of those bodies, subtle and gross. So within the subtle body, there are energy centers, and otherwise known as chakras. And in the region of the heart, there is an energy center. It's said actually the heart is the focal point of the body itself, that the conscious entity, who's known to be chitkana, or a particle of the supreme consciousness, resides there along with and accompanied by the supreme entity or the supreme consciousness. So both are there within the heart region. There's a way in which we get energy throughout our body from the energy source, which is that consciousness. It gets pumped through our blood through the whole body. And therefore, it's like the sun lights up the whole universe. In a similar way, the consciousness located within the heart illuminates the rest of the body. And when we talk about the heart, we also talk about what is called in Sanskrit the chitta. The chitta is the combined form of the mind, intelligence, and ego, the full subtle body. And when it, as I used the phrase before, becomes cluttered, it can be confusing. It can lead to us feeling depressed, overwhelmed, and also losing vision of ourselves when there's so much clutter there within our consciousness in the chitta. The color of it changes. It becomes dark, and we're lost. When we're able to purify that energy center, then we see clearly who we are. The fear that comes from darkness vanishes. And yes, there is an opening of the heart in the sense of our nature as spiritual beings is to love. That's the commonality, according to the ancient wisdom literatures, of all living entities. We're not just talking about humans. Every entity that we see, living entity with a body, is animated by the conscious spark within it, the living force, which is categorically different from matter. And its characteristic is that it wants to love. So when in a heart that's overwhelmed with junk, then that loving propensity gets perverted. And we invest our love, well, as the old song says, looking for love in all the wrong places. We invest our loving propensity in that which can't love us back, which is matter. I may develop a fetish for matter and want to enjoy the material world and try to control it. When I was young and had a prospect to buy my first car, I read up on it, and one of the pieces of advice was, don't fall in love with it because it won't love you back. And that goes for the whole material world. It's not capable of loving back. We're looking for a place where we can repose our love, which is synonymous with opening our heart. Love means an opening, an expansive opening of the heart. And when we're able to find that entity who can unlimitedly respond or reciprocate our love, that we've found the supreme entity. And that's the name of the supreme amongst many millions of other names is Krishna in the Vedic literature, because Krishna means the one who can adequately respond to your love. And that all takes place. It's all a matter of the heart. Most poetry, songs, aesthetics talk about the condition of the heart, and so does the Bhagavad Gita. So mind, intelligence, ego, they're all subtle body. The soul is beyond even those, but they are all situated in basically the region of the heart. And therefore, we find it to be a powerful energy center. Om Tat Sat means over and out. Okay, Denise? Thank you for such a compelling question. Now, let's talk about the mind as a bully. And this is not philosophically off base, because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, in talking about the process of meditation and describing how yogis apply themselves to various types of meditation, endeavor to make the mind a friend. That means there's an opposite state of the mind which is that it can become an enemy. And there can be a great struggle with the mind. So we have here what's called mind push. And this is a highly philosophical point that's important and perhaps even startling. And that is that when one's present choices are compelled by one's mind's accumulated past impressions, you get a condition called mind push. And if you analyze the person who's the subject of this exquisite painting rendered by a local artist called ChatGPT, we find that these strings attached to the various personalities indicate the pushings of the mind. And this pushing, we may not notice at all. We may just feel like this is my life. But it's important to analyze why we're making certain choices. And in the Gita, you can find in the 17th chapter, 3rd verse, a description of how we develop a particular nature, and we develop what's called Shraddha. This word is Sanskrit. Shrad means the heart, and da is an active verb. It means where you place something. And so the point that Krishna makes in this verse is everyone has some Shraddha. That is, we're putting our heart into something. And why does one person put it into one entity or ideology and another puts it into a completely opposite concept? This is because of a predisposition caused by our previous activities and associations. And this goes to the concept of karma. Karma means that we're carried along by our previous activities. But where is the force that's pushing us along? It's in the mind. It's psychological, according to the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras, the Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. So that brings us to the next slide, which is to ask the question, or that the wisdom literatures ask us to consider: how free are the choices we're making? Even in modern psychology, Julius could probably tell us more about this. He's a psychologist. The ways in which we assume certain roles, identities, based on context. We develop ways of acting in society based on expectations and based on perhaps fears or desires in our subconscious mind that we're not even aware of. And therefore, when we're making choices, we may think, oh yeah, that's my decision. But according to the Bhagavad Gita, and perhaps, and I'll ask Julius if he can verify any of what I'm saying, as hopefully it's not just pop psychology, but there's some truth in it, that there is a way in which we're influenced by the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, and we make decisions based on that. Julius, would you like to say anything about that?
Yeah, for sure. And psychology interns, not next year it should be that, but I would say, like, yeah, I really like the there's like sort of this um, argument about like free will versus determinism, and like often the idea of it is like our choices and everything is like very holistic based on a variety of different things on what we had before our upbringing, all these different things. So what like yeah, I think that is yeah, psychology would say that is like yeah, your what is your um choices, and often it's based on behavior and your where you were born and what you watched. So it's there's a yeah, there's a philosophy of determinism. There's some folks that do question free will, which is or question more of like free will, but leave will, and that kind of falls more in the law. I don't know, not everybody in law enforcement, but kind of at least the law believes that there is kind of this binary, like there is this more of like this choice, whereas like psychology is more, not everybody in psychology, but at least a lot of things suggest it is holistically a variety of different things that actually make our choices and decisions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it did. It's very helpful. In fact, in a couple slides uh, hence, we have this same setup talking about free will versus determinism, and I'll discuss that. And yes, I resonated with the points you made about how there are ways in which we're compelled by our our predispositions in life are already programmed. And just yesterday or the day before, I was discussing a connected point with a colleague based on a documentary that I saw many years ago. And when I looked it up again, it was about modern advertising and public relations, which used to be called propaganda in World War One, but then it was given this euphemism, public relations. And the father of modern public relations and advertising is a person named Bernays, and he happens to be the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who is privy to his research about the unconscious mind and how it forces us to make decisions, or it predisposes us to make predictable decisions based on our psychophysiological nature or our psychological nature. And the documentary traces how he was able to use that theory to develop ways to manipulate people, to be very frank, through modern advertising. Previously, people just presented the product and said, here, take it or leave it. It's red, it's shiny, you can buy it. But he employed the ideas based on the theory that he got from his uncle, Freud, that yes, we're very much predisposed to certain kinds of fears and desires that are deep within our psyche. And this is parallel with what the yoga psychology says also. For instance, Patanjali Muni, who wrote his sutras, talks about the mind and its vrittis, or its turnings. It has, along with our birth, we carry with us the subtleties of our previous lives' experiences deep within the spool, or more like a digital cloud that comes with us from our previous body, and we have predispositions. As we mature, they start to manifest, and they come out in various ways. And so one of the points that the Yoga Sutra makes, so does the Bhagavad Gita, is we're not as free as we think we are. And there is a balance point that I'll get to here between destiny and free will. Both things are happening at the same time. But the big question is, how free are the choices we make? And if we start to look at our own lives and analyze the things our mind tells us to do, then we may notice that the mind has a stronger influence on us than we thought. As an example, maybe come into the Zoom room for a second. If anyone here has ever tried fasting, okay, so say you usually have breakfast at 9 in the morning, and then you're fasting that day, and 10:30 a.m. rolls around, and then you start having a conversation with your stomach. Your stomach sends an email or an SMS to your brain and says, excuse me, but you forgot to feed me. And then your intelligence sends an SMS back to the stomach, says, yeah, right. Yeah, no, we're not eating today. It's a fasting day because this, that, either you're doing for your health or you're doing for some spiritual reason. Maybe that assuages the anxiety of the stomach, but an hour or two later, it checks in again and says, yeah, right. Now it's lunchtime, so feed me, and so forth. There's a dichotomy. You'll notice a struggle that goes on between the intelligence and the mind. Sometimes people can't fast because it gets so intense, the cognitive dissonance between the sense of hunger and the intelligence that, oh, this is good for me, or I'm doing it for a higher cause. You may not be able to maintain that. It gets so loud, and it's like, okay, I'll just eat. And we don't notice that until we fast. Again, I'm not advocating fasting. I think I said something about fasting on the last show. Not a huge advocate of fasting, although it's a good idea, at least a couple times a month if you can. And in the same way, we are pushed along by our senses, and we also have deep within our mind likes and dislikes. Now let's go into that. So let's go to the next slide, number 5, because these slides are insightful. And on number 5, we get the illustrated version where we have myriad predispositions, thoughts, thought patterns that are going through. There's a sense of belonging I yearn for. I look for comfort. I see certain things like I'm just interpreting her dreams here, don't mind. You look at the cupcake on the left and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like comfort to me. And sugar's down there at the list. I need some sugar. All of these are going on at an incredible rate within our mind. And they're based, as we pointed out at the bottom, on what's called samskars. This is an important word in the context of yoga psychology, samskars. What it means is that we've had previous experiences and the impressions, which are called samskars, which I think it doesn't mean exactly this, but when you say a scar, if you've had an injury and then there's a scar left, like when I was a kid, I accidentally backed into my hamster's cage, my pet hamster, and it left a little scar on my leg. And every time I look at it, I think of my hamster. So the scar is a lasting impression on the psyche. And there are certain things that we've come in contact with that in a certain context that, oh, I like this, I don't like that. So what we interpret as my choice, like I like jazz, I don't like country, or I only like country. I'm talking about music, by the way. And then that all these things that we say, this is really me. I like yellow. And these are what the yoga psychology teachers say is samskar. It's based on our previous experiences and their combinations and permutations of all these experiences. So what we think of and what we go for in the world is actually the pushings of the samskars. It's a pre-program that's running in our mind. So this is one of the pushings of karma. We choose based on our pre-programmed attraction and repulsions. They're built in. And we get more of them as we go through our lives. Our early lives also are marked by various statements. Parents say to us, I love you, I don't love you. these kinds of things leave deep impressions in our heart that affect us the rest of our lives. And so to the next slide, number 6, we get this image of karma. Karma is like a huge, unstoppable wheel that pushes us forward. And this is the part where destiny comes in. What's predestined? What I'm going to choose based on the samskars that I've developed over many lifetimes. And this is the push of karma. Amit.
I have a question slash observation. So, like right now, where I live in Alberta, there's a strong separatist movement. 40% of the people here support separating Alberta from Canada, and some of the people leading it are my buddies. And my grandfather faced something similar in 71 in Bangladesh. And my parents left Bangladesh from Canada because of this political mess. And I find myself like in a similar political drama, even though in a different continent. And it just made me wonder how much of what I find myself is because of my samskara, despite my parents' disapproval.
Yeah. I mean, how much of it? I don't know, 97.2%. They're very powerful, these impressions that we have within us. And I can't say a percentage exactly, but the main principle is that we're, I'm not trying to be too predictive. It's generally predictive that the principle is that we're impelled by the impressions we have in our mind, our fears. We try to avoid pain in many different ways. So what we see as protective, we'll gravitate towards and so forth. And this is based on the idea that we're a temporary body in this world and we have survival instincts, and so many of our choices are based on these. And if we really think about them deeply, we may see that they have an origin in that. And there is a state of consciousness where we're able to observe these pushings and notice that actually they have nothing to do with my real existence. This is one of the themes of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the ancient wisdom literatures, is that there is a state of consciousness that is purely observational, where we see that we're not the mind. And we can notice that the mind is pushing us forward to do certain things, but there's a point at which we can be aloof. That comes in an important juncture in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, where Arjuna wants to know from Krishna, what are the symptoms, the verifiable symptoms of somebody who's becoming self-realized? And the first thing that Krishna says, here it is in Sanskrit, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partamanogatan atman yeva manatushta sita pragnasta dochate. Breaking it down from the last part of the verse to the front, stita means to be able to stand somewhere. It's actually cognate with the word stand in English. That word stand comes from stita in Sanskrit. It means to be steady, stable, well-established. Prajna, pratishtita, means that what is said to be a steady state where one's not being pushed by karma is, and then back to the front of the verse, prajahati. Prajahati means to be able to resist an urge, to resist an urge. Have you ever felt an urge and then you resisted it? Like maybe 10 million times a day. I mean, there's always, and this is what the verse says, prajahati da kaman. Kaman means there are these urges or desires impelling us to grab onto the external world. We see objects of the senses, and the senses go, I'll take it, I'll take it. And then the intelligence comes in and says, no, I don't think so. Yeah, no, not a good idea. And prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan means the mind's always doing this. It's loaded up with all these combinations and permutations of impressions and desires. and it's rolling like a conveyor belt, bringing these things out. And when we're lost in that, we're just being pushed by karma to go from one sense object to the next. We organize our lives around it. We buy a house in a certain place because of it. We get a certain job because of it. We dress in a certain way because of that. It's all being thrust upon us by our previous activities. But when when one's able to make the observation that these things are superfluous to my real self-interest and it's not me, then Krishna says that you can step back from them. You get a relief from that. And then he says, from that state you can find happiness within. Noelani gave something. Oh, she's fasting today. Go ahead, Jam.
Yeah, she says, I am fasting today. I chose to also fast from complaining. By 9 a.m., I realized I'm internally complaining a lot more than I realized. Now I know, and now I can work on that.
I mean, that's harder than not eating, isn't it? That's harder than anything. Fantastic, Noelani. I knew I brought up fasting again for a reason. So that brings us back to the slide deck. Amit, did that help? Did I even answer your question?
It did help. Thank you.
Yeah. So I love this wheel. This is the push of karma or destiny. Go back one, please. We need the impact, the 1-2 punch, because we're talking about boxing, so I have to use metaphors like that. So this is the push of karma or destiny. We're getting pushed, we're being railroaded, actually, according to this picture, in the literal sense of the word. We're being pushed along a rail of destiny based not on some malefic force in the universe. It's us. We're the ones who have been involved in various ways, and we've picked up tendencies that are impelling us to move in a certain direction. Now, that may sound like determinism, but when we go to the next slide, karma is not permanent. This is proved in one of the ancient literatures. I mean, there's many proofs, there are many axiomatic statements that say this, but one of them says, karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhajam, which means that karma can be eliminated by, now, the word karma comes from the root word in Sanskrit, kri, it just means to work. So the context we're talking about karma is that which is impelling us to work according to our past activities. We may come to a point where karma can be quelled and it's not pushing us anymore. So that means karma is not permanent and destiny can be changed. That requires coming to clear consciousness. And when we're not in clear consciousness, we're simply in a maelstrom of desires, thoughts, impulses that push us in a certain direction, and they lead to another birth in the material world. That's one of the ultimate results of karma in this life, is that when we leave this body, back to the Zoom room for a second, when we leave this present body, we take all those impressions with us to the next body. In fact, material nature accommodates all of the desires that we have right now. So when you leave this present body, you don't die. That's the good news. Nobody ever dies. But you are transported to your next destination based on your own desires. Denise.
Oh, can I tell a little story?
We insist upon it.
Okay. So on Disney, there's also National Geographic, and there's a show called Pets, Pets, and they're different little stories. And I watch one a day. It's only an hour long. So one of the first stories was about a man who came from a very extremely difficult family of abuse. And he said there was nothing good going on in his whole family. And he was living alone. And I think he was quite miserable. And somehow he got a cat. And this cat transformed him from one person to a person that was so kind and compassionate and full of love, and that he talked about his cat all day long. It's the most precious story, but he just cared about this cat so much, and this cat also accepted him. And so he just became so compassionate and full of love. But if anybody wants to see it, it's absolutely sweet. And it's just one story after another of these pets perhaps changing their karma. Maybe they're the, how do you say, the motive or the instigator, or what, the catalyst to change their karma.
Well, I was practically raised by cats, so I could resonate with that story. And I especially picked up on the philosophical point you're making, which is there a catalyst, and this is the idea behind getting knowledge. Knowledge is the catalyst in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks about the way in which we're ignorantly moving through the world, not really sure why we're doing what we're doing. And we may be doing the wrong things. We're just taking it for granted that we're doing something that is meritorious. But then he says, when you get an intervention of knowledge and you come to a clear idea of who you are and what's really important, then you can start making wise choices. In fact, one of my favorite verses in Sanskrit from the Sri Upanishad says, Anyadevahur sambhavad, anyarahur asambhavad. And that is that there's a huge difference between making an informed decision about how to act in the world under authoritative guidance from axiomatic spiritual authorities and just whimsically moving through the world, which sometimes in modern terms is compared to blindfolding yourself and then trying to drive on a major thoroughfare, see how far you get without bloodshed. Yes, so catalysts. And association also can make all the difference in the world as far as transformation goes. And I'm thinking about getting a cat now that you said that. All right, now this is the push of karma or destiny. And we have the concept of diminishing karma until we're not pushed by the impulse of the senses. And this is the main point that Patanjali Muni makes in his Yoga Sutra, isn't it? It's the first point he makes. And he says, bring your vrittis, or the turnings. Vritti means to turn. So bring those turnings of the mind, which are turning you in this way and that way, still them, bring them down. And that he suggests doing it through meditation. And then there's various processes. There's Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. It brings the mind to clarity and engages the natural propensity of the soul in loving the supreme object, which is the source of everything. Now, coming back to this slideshow, and we're at slide number 8 now.
I have a
Yes,
small
please,
question.
Hitesh, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So I was just thinking that I don't know. It just maybe this is how I feel, and I've heard it a couple of times, and I have seen my mom also saying this, that whatever happens for a reason. So destiny a lot of times does take us to good places as well. So is it always like we should discourage the karmic cycle where it is taking us, and should we always interfere, by making conscious choices? How do we make this differentiation that destiny is taking us to maybe a bad place or maybe a good place?
Well, let's just give a common example. You could
Yeah.
you could go through your life and be under medicalized, In other words, let's say you never go in for a regular checkup, you never take your blood pressure, you never have a test. I'm talking allopathic now, blood test, to see what kind of balance you have in your blood. Is there something showing up that shouldn't be there, and so forth? And you can just say, well, whatever happens, happens. I'll just eat whatever because it's all destiny and it doesn't matter what I do. Or you can say that, okay, I have a body and it kind of does matter. And therefore, I'll check up on it. I'll take my blood pressure, make sure that I'm eating the right things and so forth. And there's statistically a likely outcome from that. That there'll be a difference in the outcome in a double-blind study or a controlled study of those who don't look out for their health and those who do. So although there's also, in a biological sense, the concept of genetics. You may say I'm predisposed to look a certain way, and maybe I'm predisposed to certain traits because of my genetics. There's also the study of epigenetics now, which says that although those are there, you can delay the effects of certain ailments that might be there in your genes, or you can bypass them altogether by your lifestyle change. Now, when it comes to destiny and in interpreting it in our lives and using it in our favor, that's very much the concept of bhakti. And that is that the universe is purposeful. Everything that happens to us happens for a reason, but that's based on our awareness that life has an ultimate purpose, which is that this life is not permanent, obviously not in this body or on this planet, and that the ultimate purpose of life is to come to full consciousness. And the way that the Vaishnava or the Bhakti Yoga sages describe obstacles that come up seemingly by destiny as rungs on a ladder. And that when we're able to overcome those obstacles, seeing that and see them as opportunities to advance spiritually, then we're able to climb the ladder to the highest position in this lifetime. And that's how the wisdom literatures deal with how we should have enlightened engagement with the world and to whatever comes to us apparently by destiny. Hitesh?
Yeah, so I think it's like a mix of both, right?
It is. And that's what's
Okay.
coming up in we are in a dual existence right now because we have a physical body. We have a biological aspect that we're maintaining right now as we speak. And we're also pure consciousness, which is beyond the body. And while we're in this body, we have to attend to both aspects of our life. And karma, destiny, we can make categorical statements about it, but it's very complicated. In fact, Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. It's like, don't try to sort it all out. Just find the basic principle behind it. Because where one thing starts and another one ends, and how it all comes together, who said what to whom, you can't even figure that out on a daily basis, what to speak on a cosmic level over millions of lifetimes. So, the kind of simplistic statements I'm making about this is not to say that it's not complicated. It is. It's complicated and complex, but there's, as Occam's razor says, the simplest approach is usually the best. And the simplest approach is to accept responsibility for advancing spiritually and take destiny as your helper to move up the ladder.
Makes sense.
Thanks, Hitesh. Looks like a nice place you're at. Where are you?
Yeah, we are walking in Bayline Park. I'm with my wife. She's a little far away from where I am. I'll just show you
Where's
around. It's
Bayland
lovely.
Park?
Where is it? It's like 10 minutes from Santa Clara.
I'm going to drive down there. That looks
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
lovely. Yeah, it's really nice.
Maybe we should have the show from down there next time.
Yes, yes, why not?
We'll join you on the walk.
Yep.
Thanks, Hitesh. Good to see you. Say
Thank
hi to
you.
your wife, please. Okay,
Yeah,
a few
sure.
more
Thank
slides
you.
here, JM, as you want to know, as you know better than me. Okay, we have talked about you have free will. No, we haven't. Here it comes. Get ready. You're going to feel better about life now. You have free will. Rise above karma. You have free will. Rise above karma. And the next slide says how to push back on the bully of your mind. And we come to a well-known story about the two wolves, and father's telling the child about this momentous standoff between the bad wolf and the good wolf. And the child wants to jump to the end of the story. It says, who wins? Who wins? Who wins? Who won the fight? And the father said, the one that you feed the most will win. The one who's fed the most will win. And this is a metaphor for the aspects that we're probably already aware of in our own psyche that push us in directions that we know aren't good for us. And then there's the part of us where we understand what's best for us. And which one of the wolves will win? It's the one that we learn to feed the most. And this is where sadhana comes in, the idea of sadhana in the process of bhakti yoga. The way to outsmart a genius, does anybody know how to do that? Of course, you guys already are, but for people like me, how do you outsmart a genius is to have a better plan. Lots of geniuses don't have a good plan, so even though they're smart, they don't know where they're going. So if you're not a genius and you want to ascend, have a good plan, and that's what sadhana is. It gives you this idea that there's a plan you can follow every day to feed the good wolf. Feed that part of you that can extricate you from the storm of the material world. Go ahead, you can go on the next slide since we're really down on time now. So learn what to feed your mind, just like nutrition. There's plenty of evidence about what you can eat that makes you healthier, and vice versa. And so get educated. And in the same way, if you learn what to feed your mind, and look at the little emojis up there, it's indicative of these concepts, then you'll notice the same kind of results that you do physically when you go get on a better diet. And this is the simple joy of sadhana, is figure out what the right plan is and then implement it incrementally, what you can handle, just like you do when you're changing your diet. And our last slide brings us to the point of this term, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti is the ultimate kind of yoga because the wisdom literatures consider that love is the most powerful of all emotions, and it's the primal emotion of every living being. And to draw upon that and bring our attention to our original divine source, Krishna, lifts us above the samskars, purifies the mind all at once. And there's 3 steps to begin bhakti, keeping it simple. To hear, to repeat, and then to remember. Because whatever you hear and whatever you repeat, then you remember. And in the form of the mantra that we started with, remember way back then at the beginning of the show, we started with mantra meditation, Nitai Gauranga. So then there's a way in which when you purposefully change your auditory diet, what goes into your ears, that will determine what you then have available to repeat And as you hear and then you repeat, then that's the shape that your mind will take. And that's how you make your mind your friend. And that's how you push back the bully of the mind. Om Tat Sat, Ijo Des, that means we're done for the day. Okay?
Kurt has a question. Vaish, can you tell us about one of your own samskaras you discovered and what you did about it?
Well, I used to like ice cream, and I still do, but I just found healthier alternatives to eating half a gallon of ice cream in one sitting. Is that what you meant? Tell us about one of your own samskars you discovered and what you did about it. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but I've noticed that when I was young, I had all kinds of ideas about what to do. And when I discovered the Bhagavad Gita, I thought that, well, maybe I can get some training and have a better life. That's why I moved into an ashram. I'm not sure that was my exact thought process, but in retrospect, that was something like that. And everything that I was told would make me happy. This was circa 1973. Going to concerts, unlimited sense gratification, whatever was available at the time. The Bhagavad Gita said, nah, not a great idea. Maybe try a path of enlightenment instead. And so the way I was able to not respond to the call of the wild and just run out into the world and do whatever I thought might satisfy me because of my own speculation, I took the path of wisdom, that is the wisdom literatures and the direction of Krishna, because it really called to me. So I invested my time, energy. I lived in an ashram for 13 years and, practiced getting up early in the morning, meditating for hours, doing service and so forth. That's became the foundation to my life, which now in my twilight of my life is still prevalent, because that's the main samskar that's in my life. That's the summary. And that's the
Thank
end
you.
of the show too. Hey, Kurt.
How's it going?
Well, much better now that I saw you. What's going on? Are you riding your bike again?
I am, yeah. So gonna go to salsa again. So it's a beautiful day in Santa Monica. But I guess I had this impression that some scars, I mean, from the variety of experiences and how they're accumulated, but some scars specifically from past lives that can be following you. I guess that's what I was kind of reaching at. Is that like a correct thinking or no?
It is, but they got a specific term. They're called purva samskars. And purva samskar means previous samskars before this body, but you can also accumulate samskars in this life. It's carried over because, think of the things you've done in your childhood and youth. Well, you're still in your youth, but that, because they're stuck in you now. I mean, you could hang around people who drink alcoholic beverages out of a bottle in a bag sitting on a bench somewhere. And, you get used to that. And that can become one of your samskars in this life, that you have to have a drink all the time. And that can happen in this very life. So there's ways that we're exposed to new stimuli, and therefore, we assume new samskars, and then they pull us in a different direction. Talk about being pulled. Addiction is very heavy, because even when the intelligence comes in and says, you shouldn't do this anymore, and I don't want to do it anymore, and then you can't stop. The samskars are so strong. So it takes not only intervention from knowledge, but also through association, as Denise so aptly brought up, and also we have to have some runway to practice on, so we can get a little bit of momentum in our life. That's called sadhana. That's why you see people living in ashrams, so they can really absorb themselves and really develop new samskars, new habit patterns in their lives. JM, thanks for letting me go over time. I really appreciate it. He was thinking about pushing the button and shutting the whole thing down, but he didn't do it because you were on there, Kurt. Thanks for saying this.
It's called Pora samskars.
Purva.
Purva.
Purva,
Purva.
P-U-R-V-A. Purva means previous. Previous samskars. Accumulated from before this birth.
All right, those are the interesting ones.
Yes.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Good to see you.
Good to
Thanks,
see you.
everybody, for joining. And hopefully we'll take away some samskar. And then the next show, what we learn in this show, we'll call it a purva samskar from the last show. But a good way to leave with positive impressions is to remember what the yogis do high in the Himalayas. They, when they come out of their caves, put their arms high in the air to say hello and goodbye to one another, and they call out this mantra that means keep the vibration going, Hari Bol. You want to try it?
Haribol!
Haribol!
Hari Bol!
Thank you. Thank you.